on the phone, you bird brain.
What do you do, backflips? You jump up there in a silly suit? What do you do?
Yo, bam! I want you to play that.
Welcome to another Fast Freddie Rocks Youngstown podcast. It's good to see everybody tuning in tonight. And we got a big show coming up. And we're going to talk about the blues scene coming back to Youngstown. It's been a while since we've had a lot of blues music in Youngstown. And my friend Tracy Randall from the South Side, our old hood, is here. And Charlie Barath, harmonica player extraordinaire, is also in the house here with us today. And we're going to talk a little bit about blues coming back to Youngstown, and Charlie's going to be playing one of the first shows. And Tracy, you've been working with the Dash In, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what we got going on?
Well, we have 4 shows scheduled monthly from February through May here at the Dash In Youngstown over on Mahoning Avenue, and it is a blues genre presentation. We don't have a lot of blues bands here in Youngstown, but I was in Pittsburgh for quite a few years and kind of honing my chops and networking and learning from Ed Traversary how to put on shows. And if you don't know who Ed is, it was the third guy in DeCesar Engler Productions who put on the big shows over at the Igloo and EIC Light Amphitheater down at Station Square. So Ed took me under his wing as part of his program at Point Park University and kind of taught me and guided me. And I started doing blues shows in Pittsburgh, and the pandemic hit. We had to stop. And that brought me back home here to Youngstown. And I started to do some blues online remotely because it was like we were gaining a lot of momentum with the program. It was called Tuesday Blues Day. And so I got a few artists that I'd already became connected with in the blues scene in Pittsburgh and asked them to do like a monthly or every couple weeks online program. But, online and live are totally different. And you don't get the same energy, you don't get the same response, and you don't get the same,
But the drinks are free.
Yeah, and you don't have to get dressed
cheaper.
up.
Yeah, or at least cheaper, yeah.
So if you've ever wanted to go to pantsless blues shows, that was the time to do it. But, so I was looking for a venue for a long time up here in Youngstown that would be responsive and receptive to taking a chance and bringing the blues up. And I had attended a blues festival down at the B&O station in the September of 2019, and it was huge. It was a wonderful experience that the blues was here in Youngstown down at the B&O, and I got introduced to Haas and the Juggernauts, who are our May artists, and blew my mind. I couldn't believe that this blues band was in Youngstown, and I didn't know about it.
Right.
And I also made acquaintance with Howard Howell and his 5 Points band, and they're a regular staple up at Frida's here in downtown Youngstown. So I figured there was a blues following here, and there was people who liked the blues in Youngstown, and Dennis at the Dash was ready to take a chance, and here we are.
Well, that's great to hear. No, actually, I'll tell you, our buddy Cornell, he's been doing a lot for the blues over the years, and I'll tell you, we've had such great shows over the years when you think about it. If you look back to even like, Tommy Castro was playing here a lot. Joe Bonamassa was playing the Cellar in Struthers and going around to different high schools talking to the kids about blues. And next thing you know, he's now an arena act.
Yes.
And, and one of the first places that he really caught on was in Youngstown. And just this past week down at the Robbins Theater, they had Samantha Fish and Devon Allman. And, the show was really good. And the way I see the blues scene, and Charlie, you could probably jump in on this as well, is that, all the people, or a lot of the people that are in the classic rock are looking for something fresh but familiar. And I think this is where they're finding it, is on the blues scene, because, all the Zeppelin and, the blues has so much, influence on rock music.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the classic rock people are heading in that direction because the music sounds familiar. They know these old blues standards. And with the blues, you got a lot of room to move. It's not just, some people I think misunderstand what the blues are about. You go to a blues show, it's more of a rock show than, what I think some people think the blues are. Did you find it to be that way?
I think the general notion of what is the blues has changed so much over the, since its heyday, or the beginning for that matter, even in the last few decades. And I'll give you an example. A friend of mine who is actually going to be with me at the Dash In, Jimmy Adler, told me the story that he was playing in Pittsburgh one time, and he went to take a break, and this fellow was sitting at the bar, he was, on his way home from work or whatever, still had his suit on, and he walked up and he's like, "Man, I really like your music. What do you call that stuff?" Now, Jimmy is one of the few guys that plays like a real authentic style. That's why I hooked up with him years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he just looked at him and smiled. He says, "It's the blues, man." And the guy was kind of perplexed. He's like, "It doesn't sound like any blues I've ever heard." So most people get their blues from those same places they're getting the classic rock. The Zeppelin and the Allman Brothers and those bands that covered some of those blues tunes. And quite frankly, that's where I was introduced to it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what blues was the first few times I heard those songs, but I knew that there were certain tracks on those records that made me feel differently, and I gravitated toward them. And as I dug deeper into it, I realized, like, oh, okay, I see that's not their song, that they're putting their spin on this other. And then I started digging back. And so consequently, what I preferred to listen to and to play are that more traditional style of blues, not so much the rock and blues, not so much the guitar driven classic rock oriented kind of stuff. I like the stuff from the heyday in Chicago, 40s and 50s Chicago chess records, harmonica driven, great rhythm. To me, it's all about the feel.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody is turned on to blues and decides to dig further like I did, I don't see that as a bad thing.
No,
not at all.
I think it's great.
And there is a connection. Some of the newer, more contemporary blues is very much, it's really blurred the line between blues and rock. I mean, there wasn't it was a pretty fine line to begin with, but it's, you could put it on any rock radio station or blues radio station, and it's probably going to play.
Mm-hmm.
And you get into some people who are more traditionalists, more purists, and they're going to, you'll always have those debates. And that's with any music. We were just talking about country music and where it is compared to where it was 50 years ago.
Yeah, don't get me started on that one.
Two completely genres.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into that a little later.
Well, Fred, you used to be on WNIO for a long time, weren't you? And that was
that's where I started at WNIO AM playing country music. And, we're talking, back in the late 70s, early 80s. So, what I like and what I got into was definitely more the real, what I call real country, but everything changes, and it moves on.
Yeah.
And, but, to me, I like the Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Ray Price, George Jones, Tammy Wynette. I really like them. And what's kind of crazy about that is that when we started that, me and my partner Gary Z, we were young guys. We were like 20, 21 years old at the time, but we soaked up all that music and got into it. And it wasn't like we were just a couple of young guys in there hoping to get a radio job and be on the radio. We soaked up that music, and we had a legitimate passion for that music, and we just embraced it, which was kind of crazy, because I guess we might have been like outlaw country back then, because you had these young guys that were into that. And then of course the bands like Alabama and were coming up and everything, and so we were really into that, and we were into the whole Waylon and Willie outlaw scene. Right. And, we'd go see Hank Jr. all the time, or if Willie was playing, David Allen Coe, all those people. And, we would host all the shows with like George Jones and Merle Haggard and stuff. So we were really into it, and I still am. So that's where
same here.
That's where like my roots in country go. But like I get a lot of the new guys, and I can see why they're popular, and by the same token, I can see why they're all kind of like lumped in together. I mean, when I hear auto tuners and like a rap thing in it, and it's almost like, okay, come on. I think there's a spot where you draw the line. But then I look back and then I think, well, you look at like when Eddie Arnold and Ray Price and those guys come out. I mean, they were in a suit and they had an orchestra behind them, and they, Make the World Go Away and songs like that. Jim Reeves. I mean, they weren't hillbillies.
No, not at all.
But
what became known as the Nashville sound, it was formulated, but it was a far cry from what country music was 10 years prior.
Yeah.
And, and let's face it, the commercial end of music is driven by what's saleable, which is dictated by the labels and the recording, entities. And it's, if they think you have something that they can sell, they're going to be behind you 1,000% until that's old hat. And then they're going to find the newest.
And it's always been that way.
It's true. Yeah.
It's always been that way. And
the business end of music is probably, I think it's done more to hurt music than to help it, because they're not looking at the art first.
And that's one thing that I like about the blues scene, is because I think the blues scene is the real deal. And I was just thinking of this the other day. I was down at that show with Devon Allman and Samantha Fish, and I'm looking at like Samantha Fish, and then I'm thinking, Susan Tedeschi and Anna Popovic and, performers like that. And I'm sitting there going, these people are the real deal. They have something to say. They're talented musicians. They're shredding guitar licks. And, it's not like, Cardi B with Wet Ass Pussy or anything coming up there and having a group of strippers on there to make it, I mean, it's like two different things. You watch this show, you watch their shows, and they're sexy, they're attractive, they're sultry, but
class.
It's, class. And it's not like, it's not like this stuff. And not that I'm a prude, not that I've never been to a strip club,
well,
and that kind of stuff.
There's a big difference between implying something and just or shoving it in your face.
Right.
And at some point we got away from, there are always these little cute tongue-in-cheek ways to make implications in art, especially music, and, some people wouldn't get the joke. Some people would, but at some point we've gotten rid of the entendre and just like, you're just going to put it out there.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like
just stick it in your face, so to speak.
Literally. Yeah. Sometimes. Yes. Yeah.
But and I was thinking about that, and I'm going, these people, they're such, you see this talent. And I think that's what, the blues scene is almost kind of like an underground scene, and the people that are into it and know it and are faithful to it.
Yes.
And it's almost like one of those things that you don't want to get too big, because it might ruin it, because you're going to get to the point where people are going to be there like, oh, okay, how could we contrive something to be a part of this instead of having it real? And when I look at the blues scene right now, I think that's the thing that stands out the most about it, is because everybody in this blues scene is real. They're not doing it to make $1 billion, although it would be nice. But I mean, you look at all these people out there, Warren Haynes, from the Allman Brothers and stuff. That guy is out there to play. He'll play anywhere, and they just got this following because it's a real thing. And I don't think everybody that's into it wants too many people to get into it, because they're afraid it's going to ruin it.
Yeah. Well, I was just having this conversation with a friend. Blues, I think, has always been a fringe art form. And when you think about the proven fact that blues music, and we all know where that came from, a very difficult place, it was literally the roots of everything that came after that. Country, rock, jazz, swing, all that stuff has its roots back in the blues. Willie Dixon, the famous Chicago bass player, said the blues is the roots and everything else is the fruits.
Yeah.
And he was not wrong at all. So even in its heyday, you could make the argument that it was very fringe, because the only place where you could hear it was in black market radio stations that had limited, viability and limited reach, and were stationed in areas that had a higher black population. And outside of that, white America didn't want to hear blues. When the English bands first start coming over, and the Stones and people like that playing college campuses, and the young white America was like, wow, that's great stuff. Where'd you come up with that? And they were like, what do you mean? Where'd we come up with it? Just like it's in your backyard. But the majority of white America had no idea.
Right.
That's how fringe it was. It's not different now. You're not packing a blues club, you're packing it with people who are staunchly into that blues, that type of blues or that artist, but you're not, it's not arenas. I just went to see Kim Wilson at Club Cafe in Pittsburgh last fall. It was at the end of a little Northeast run that he did. A friend of mine was playing bass with him at the time. And Club Cafe is not a big place. It was maybe 60% capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is Kim Wilson. The guy fronted the Fabulous Thunderbirds. They used to headline stadiums. And,
Yeah.
And I had to laugh. Another harmonica playing friend of mine, Jack, we were having lunch, and he says, I have to remind myself that not everybody is into it like we are, because we know this guy, we know his music. But I told a dozen people that I was excited because I had tickets to go see Kim Wilson, and most of them said, who's she?
Right.
So
right,
it's still very much fringe, but the people who are really into it, yeah.
I think one of the last shows I saw before the pandemic hit was, Jimmy Vaughn, Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother, at Jurgles.
Yeah.
And they had a good crowd.
Yeah.
But you're thinking, man, with all the talent on this stage, and his his organ player is Mike Flanagan, the drifter, who's also like in Billy Gibbons' band, and is married to Sue Foley. And it's like you have all these people up there, and you're just sitting there going, this to me is where the real talent is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
great stuff.
This is where, you're getting these blistering guitar solos, and you're just getting this great music. And, that's why I'm glad to at least, be a part of helping spread the word. And I'll tell you, this that Devon Allman, Samantha Fish show really kind of lit a fire under me again, after, being to a show here for the first time in a while, and getting back into it and stuff. But to see the crowd response, and to see how the people were digging it, and that the people that were into it were truly into it. And it's like, okay, maybe it's turning the corner into going to the next level. Or I'd sure like it to see that way.
I don't know that it'll ever get like that kind of mainstream. And to your point earlier, I'm not sure I want it to.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to see people who are out there on the road doing that. That's not an easy thing, that they can, make a good living playing it and introducing new people to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I say, Tedeschi Trucks Band, one of my favorites. And recently they did the whole, Derek and the Dominoes, Layla and other songs album in its entirety live, and they did it with Trey from Fish. And you had all these talented musicians on stage playing this thing flawless live. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is just phenomenal. Do you realize what goes in to being able to play this music to begin with, and you're playing it live on top of that, for 2 hours straight, you're playing the whole album back, front to back. And I'm just sitting there thinking, this is really phenomenal. And you're wondering why, like, man, why aren't more people into this?
Well,
Especially if you like classic rock, and if you like Eric Clapton, if you like Stevie Ray Vaughan, if you like Jimi Hendrix, if you like the Stones, this is like the next natural progression for you.
Right. And if and you can't fault anyone if they've never been exposed to it. You can never really be critical of somebody because of their ignorance. Just they don't know. That's not their fault. They only know what they're fed or what they feed themselves.
Right.
So that's what's cool about what Tracy's doing, is trying to, be such a good promoter of blues music to get it out to different places, whether it was back in Pittsburgh or back here in Youngstown. Now that's an admirable effort on your part.
Thank you.
Because more people need to hear it. That way they could decide whether or not that's something they like or don't.
Yeah, I feel like we have to give a good shout out to whoever's booking at Robbins Theater, because people in this area have not had any exposure to the blues. You've either had to go out to Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Akron, or maybe down to Jurgles to get any kind of blues music from the Youngstown area, and Warren too. But the people at the Robbins Theater seem to have tapped into that, and they're bringing these bigger acts to our area where we don't have to go all the way to Jurgles or up to the Kent stage to go see blues bands.
Well, that's like with Kenny Wayne Shepherd coming down there. I think Kenny Wayne Shepherd's only playing like 20 or 25 gigs on this next tour, and we'll have one there. And once again, if he gets even like 2/3 of a house there, that's a good crowd for that.
Yeah.
And you just see though how these bands have grown. I remember, when Blue on Black first came out, Kenny Wayne and his singer Jonah, they came to the radio station and did that thing acoustic, and it was so good. And and he was just this young guy, and it's good to see him still out there. And all these people. I'll tell you, if you're looking for people that maybe you might, if you're just want to stick your toe in to this kind of music, Eric Gales is another fantastic guitar player that you would think that is just, if you like Jimi Hendrix, if you like Stevie Ray Vaughan, you're going to like Eric Gales. Look up some of these people and get out there and see what they're all about, and then you're going to be sitting there going, oh, okay. And like I say, it's new. It's new because you got performers that you're not used to seeing all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, even though these guys have been around for a long time, you might not know them. So when you see them, it's going to have this fresh sound to it, and I think that's what you'll really enjoy. And, there's a lot of these different artists out there in these different bands, like we probably named 10 or 15 of them here just in our conversation.
Yeah,
we should have had a little list at the end. Here's some bands that you should check out.
I think that I went to the Blues Bender in Las Vegas. They have this like long weekend of nothing but blues at a hotel in Vegas in early September every year, and it sells out. And I had to take a chance and go. And so I went in 2019, and it blew my mind. I saw Government Mule, and I saw Larkin Poe.
Yeah.
And those are two really huge blues bands that would easily, like Charlie said, cross over that line, because they were rocking and rolling, and some of the old people there were like holding their ears because the place was just about to explode. They were out there poolside playing and just rocking the house like it was Kiss or something.
Yeah, and if you've never been to like some of these big blues festivals in some of these bigger cities, you'd be surprised when you go there, the talent that you see and the styles of music. And like, the more traditional stuff fits right in there, like you say, the chest sound and that sort of thing, and the Chicago blues and the older stuff, that all fits in, and you work it all in. And a good example of that is, like Devon Allman. Now, in Devon Allman, one of the first times he played in Youngstown, he played at Michael O'Malley's on 4 Mile Run Road.
Oh, yeah.
And so he played there. And then I think he might have played at the Cellar, and then he played at the B&O station. And then, slowly but surely, he was working his way up. And then I saw the Allman Betts Band in Clearwater at the Clearwater Blues Festival. And then to see them on this big stage with the full production and everything, it was like, wow, these guys are really good. This is where they belong. And to see that they were that good, and then just to see the different bands that they have at these things, I mean, it's it's really a lot of talent and very entertaining. And I think a lot more people should get involved in that. If you see a blues festival or you see these guys are playing or something, get out there and check these guys out, because you'll be surprised, I think, as to what it's all about if you're not a fan of it. Now, the fans, I feel like we're preaching to the choir, you know, and because I know the regulars and I know who they are, and we're all like-minded and everything, but for them, they're just shaking their heads like, yeah, we've been doing this for years now. And, other people, check it out. You want to see something different, but it's going to be something that's going to rock. Then this is some of the stuff that you want to check out and be a part of, because I think that's, I'm on a kick now. I'm really on a kick. I went to that show Saturday night, and I was re-energized. And then I saw Charlie was playing, and you sent me a message, and I said, I got to get the word out. I want to help get the word out.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yes, we certainly do. And on the venues in Youngstown, appreciate this too. I mean, as a whole, we're getting ready to go through a renaissance period here in Youngstown, and the Dash In, where we're going to have these Dash In Blues Days, is on Mahoning Avenue, and it's actually in the city limits, but not downtown.
Right.
So it's nice to have a neighborhood place in Youngstown that's kind of opening up and getting the word out and getting some entertainment and a little bit of a heartbeat here, because we've experienced such a dry spell since some of these like legendary clubs have closed here in town. Like we used to have a bustling downtown that we don't have anymore. And we have a big outdoor arena and we have a big arena indoors, but we don't have anything small music wise going on downtown or anywhere in the city limits.
Right. And I think COVID really put a damper on that, and probably some other factors too, there's always something going on, but like, I like the Dash In because, it's a corner bar, a neighborhood corner bar, and it's got that old ambiance with the metal ceiling and a nice big wood bar and everything. And I think the atmosphere there is really nice for that sort of thing too. And, and then, right down the street, you got the West Side Bowl coming back strong.
Oh, yeah.
And they bring some interesting musical acts there. And, now it's good to see, the Vindies and Leanne Binder and some of our other friends getting out there and starting to play again. And hopefully the ball's going to get rolling. My prediction is, like, this summer, things are going to be pretty much back to normal. I saw today on the news where they said you're not going to have to wear masks on airplanes anymore. So that's, like, I think a big step in the right direction. Yeah. And I think, you're not seeing as many people getting sick these days. True. And I think once we get to that and people feel a little more comfortable, plus they got to get back into the routine. A lot of people, if you haven't been out for 2 years, we gotta get something to get your ass off the couch,
It's easy to get comfortable with staying home.
Heck yeah.
Trust me.
When 6 o'clock you got your sweatpants on, and by 8 o'clock you're So that I think is one thing too that we're going to have to kind of battle a little bit, is to get people off the couch and get back out and start doing some stuff, Well, and I think that's going to, it's coming. It's coming. Yeah. So, Charlie, tell us a little bit about yourself. We've been talking about the scene, but, tell us, a little bit about your musical career, where you're from, how you got started, the whole 9 yards.
I guess it would have been the spring of 1961, my dad was feeling a little randy, and he sent my brothers and sisters down the street to get some ice cream. And then 9 months later, I showed up.
There you go.
I don't know how far back you want to go. Yeah, so I'm starting at the beginning.
You want to start there from the gleam in your father's eye, and then we'll take it from there.
No, I've always, I didn't have an opportunity growing up to take music lessons, to be in the band, anything like that. But I always felt I had some kind of creative thing going on, and so I guess I was my latter part of high school and I went to the music store at the mall. And I grew up in Belmont County, Ohio, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Down on the river.
Right across the river from Wheeling.
Yep.
And so I went and I bought my first Hohner Marine band. I think I paid $6 for it, because I could afford the $6.
Yeah.
So I just started noodling around with it. My old man played some, not often enough because he was really good, and not blues, but he played kind of a traditional style, as did a good friend of his, Big Mike. And I picked up a few pointers from both of them. But as I was kind of self-taught, and as I moved forward, really kind of fell in love. Like I said, when I would hear these certain tracks on some of those early Zeppelin records or whatever, and it's like it just made me feel differently because of the groove and blues. Well, blues is very much, the blues is very much a feel. It's not. I mean, you could play the right notes and completely miss the feel. So I started like gravitating towards that, and then I moved to Pennsylvania in '85, and around that time I was just kind of really not excited about the direction that rock and roll was going in the '80s or commercial music in general. That's when it really started getting heavily formulated, and then big hair and spandex really didn't work for me. So I started digging back and listening to, the older stuff. Like, okay, so early Stones and Zeppelin and the Allman Brothers, they have these blues songs on their records, and I'm starting looking at the credits, and like seeing like names like, Morgan Field and Rice Miller.
Well, not with Zeppelin. No, that took a couple lawsuits. It took
some of them they gave credit, some of them not so much.
They forgot,
But I started like, well, who are these people? And I started doing the research and finding these older records and older artists, and that were the innovators in blues music. And I'm like, this is the stuff. I can remember my older brother asked me once, what do you want for Christmas this year? And I was like, give me a Muddy Waters record. I had no idea who Muddy Waters was. I saw his name in an interview with a rock and roll artist, and I thought, the name like Muddy Waters, this guy got to be pretty badass.
Yeah.
So he got me one of his last records that he did with Johnny Winter and Hard Again, I think it was, or King Bee, one of those two. So I remember unwrapping it and then putting it on my turntable, and I dropped the needle. And as soon as it started, as soon as the hit happened, every hair on my body stood up, not just on my arms, like every hair straight up. And I remember thinking, this is what I need to listen to. And I was like, it was right around the time when I first started goofing around with harmonica. And I say goofing around because I wasn't studying it at that point. I was just goofing around with it. I was convinced that they were playing a completely different instrument because mine didn't sound like that at all. But as I moved forward, and then, I would go and play at parties and stuff with friends. And then when I moved here to Pennsylvania, I started getting the itch, and I'd go out and hit open jams and open mics and things like that. And I really wanted to start performing. And I realized, because those early years going to jam sessions, I was hoping to get someone's attention that they would hire me as a sideman in their band.
Yeah.
But I quickly realized that harmonica it's kind of it's not a standard instrument that is a required instrument unless you're really, it's not essential. If you really want it, you're going to look for it. But most people, like, well, we don't make that much money. I can't afford to feed another mouth, so right. No. So I realized that if I want to be busy at all, I better learn how to sing and front my own band, that's what happened. I started doing that, right. And it's, and I'm always working on improving that aspect of it. But as I started actually studying with credited harmonica players and teachers, that really helped shorten the learning curve. Those are things I didn't have access to when I first started. I was 20 years in before I studied with someone.
Wow.
So that really shortened the learning curve and really helped me and kept, and like anything else, as you learn things, it gives you drive to want to learn more.
And so it was probably enlightening to you that you had somebody to finally show you and go, hey, look, you got to do this. Or, oh, you want that sound? Here's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Or you're not breathing this way. Or you got to, you know.
That's right.
And so then you finally, you're like, you know, the light went on. And then, like you say, then it continues like, oh, now I want to do this. Now I want to do that. I'm adding that. And then it just
it was very, you're right. It was very basic foundational things that I was missing because no one ever showed me, and I didn't figure it out on my own. But once I started getting those directions from some teachers who have become friends of mine, it changed everything. I mean, it changed everything. And I'm like well over 40 years since I bought that first $6 harmonica.
Right.
And I still am always learning new things, even though it seems like a simple little, I mean, most people think a harmonica is you blow in it and music comes out. Well, it's a real instrument, and it takes years of intense study to get proficient. But even after all this time, I still, when I stumble upon something new, I get super excited about that. And it typically is a very subtle thing. So you get all these subtle little pieces and put them together, and it makes the whole of the sound that that's what's really special. And the harmonica is such a personal instrument. All these little subtle things are going to vary from player to player.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's been an exciting journey for me. I'm a carpenter by trade. I retired in 2014.
All right. I hate you now. I hate everybody that retires.
Well,
if you're retired, I don't even want to talk to you. We're done.
Let's see.
I'm so jealous of everybody that retires.
I retired with enough money to last me the rest of my life, provided I die next Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay. Same with me.
If that makes you feel any better.
I can retire. Yeah. Now I like this guy. He's got a plan. He's got a financial plan that works for me.
One thing I always say, Freddie, is every hardworking, dedicated musician has a very understanding spouse with a good job and benefits.
No kidding.
So I kind of got away from I still do a little carpentry stuff, but it's not my preference.
Yeah.
I've done it after 40 years of strapping on a tool belt. I've had enough.
Right.
But I dabble with a couple little things, and then I started doing music full time in 2017, and just that's kind of what I've been doing.
I think that's cool though that you kind of got this start a little later in life. You know, some of these guys we get in here, I was in a band since I was 12, and
you know what I noticed during the shutdown, and I really felt badly. I still do. There are a lot of younger cats who started music career like very early, right out of high school or college, didn't really have, because that's what they always wanted to do. So they didn't have a different skill set as like to fall back on.
Right.
And so they hit the ground running. They got success. They're touring the US and Europe, making records, playing festivals, spending 250 days on the road every year. Pandemic comes and everything shuts down. Now these guys don't have anything that they could pay their bills with. Yeah. And I have some close friends that were hurting and still haven't really fully recovered. And, and I'm thinking like, I could always pick up work. Not a problem, but these guys don't have that. So that's the other side of that coin of starting from the beginning.
Right.
And doing something like construction means you can't do that deep into your life, so you better have a second career.
That's why my old man, he dropped over at 70 and he was a carpenter.
Yeah.
So,
this is my second career. And if I don't have to strap the tool belt on other than doing stuff for myself at home, I'm okay with that. If I could make enough to supplement our household income by doing music and recording and doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
my dad dropped dead after coming home from Home Depot buying some stuff for a job.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Not to get down that road or whatever. But that's really cool. A little side note too. I saw somewhere online that Muddy Waters played in downtown Youngstown 40 years ago this week. down at the Tomorrow Club, Muddy Waters.
Wow.
It was the 40th anniversary of him playing down there.
I wasn't
Wow.
old enough to go 40 years
And
ago.
I think he played there several times.
Yeah, he
you know.
died in '83, I think. So that
Yeah.
would have been right at the end of his career.
Yeah, so yeah, that's for all the old farts out there.
Did you go there?
Oh yeah. It used to be, we always talk about this on the show because for people our age, it was just such a beloved place. It was an old theater, and everybody and their brother played there for this period of time, like in the, probably the mid 70s to the very beginning of the 80s. Still, there was probably like this 5-6 year window where everybody and their brother played there as they were starting out. AC/DC, Journey, Pat Benatar, Kiss, Bob Seger, Rush. Rush played there 5 times. Journey, just any band that was up at Judas Priest, any band at Kiss, any band that was up and coming, Alice Cooper, and it was just it was amazing on the shows that came through here. And it seemed like they would play here one day, and then it seemed like 6 months later they were the biggest band in the country. And we just had so much fun down there. And tickets were like $2, $3. You could sneak in if you climbed up the fire escape and got into the balcony, and and everybody was just into it. And they've had a ton of blues guys back then. Roy Gallagher and probably Robin Trower, I think, might have played down there. And I can't think of them all off the top of my head, but any, I'm pretty sure Edgar Winter played down there. Johnny Winter played down there. Muddy Waters, the amount of people that played there, and everybody was just so open to all those genres. Everybody there, that whether it was punk rock, one of the Ramones' very first gigs outside of New York City was here, and that's where they ran into Stiv Bators, and that's how Stiv finally struck up a friendship with them, and he goes to New York City. And I mean, somebody really should do like a documentary about that, because it was just such great times, and all these bands were just up and coming. I mean, Rush doing 2112 in a small theater from maybe 500-600 people.
Wow.
And it was just like, you would go down there just like every week. It seemed like, I'm sure there was Tubes, Devo, all these bands. And, I mean, it would be like every weekend you would go down there and it was somebody phenomenal that was a major talent, but you caught them at that time too, when they were just coming up, when they were, really something, and you're seeing them up close and you're in your hometown. And so that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so Muddy played there 40 years ago this week.
Wow.
So now getting back to Belmont County. Now you guys are both, I take it, Steelers fans, right?
I mean, I don't follow sports like I used to.
I know.
But if you had to pick, if you had to force me to pick one, it would probably be. I mean, it's the hometown.
Yeah,
team.
I don't have to force her. That's for sure. Yeah, Tracy's a diehard Steelers fan and lets me know about it. And I realized when I walked in, I said, "Well, at least I got my Browns hat on."
I told Charlie before you came, I said, "Now Fred's probably going to wear something Browns. Just letting you know."
That's okay, man.
He has to jag me. That's what we call it in Pittsburgh. We jag.
Now you're talking about what your family was friends with Lou the Toe?
Oh, my dad went to high school with Lou the Toe in Martins Ferry, Ohio.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's wild.
Yeah, he tried to say that was why he flunked one class, because he sat behind Lou and he couldn't see around the big son of a gun. Well, I'm not buying that.
Yeah. So they still have the sign right out there, home of Lou Groza.
Oh yeah. Well, I think Route 7 is called Lou Groza Highway.
Yeah, I
through
think
Martins
you're right.
Ferry.
I think you're right. And then Bill Mazeroski.
Mazeroski was right up the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where he's from, right up the road. And then and of course there's
John Havlicek, I think, was from that area.
Yeah. And who were weren't there brothers? The Necro brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Lansing, Ohio.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They lived right on 40.
I
Right on Route
thought-
40.
I thought that was pretty cool when you go to the Civic Center there in Wheeling and they have like that Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah.
And you walk down there and they have that case of like all the talented, all the big time baseball players and athletes that come out of that, that little area down there.
I think the whole Upper Ohio Valley, and that includes this part of Ohio as well. I mean, I think that it's just a hotbed for talent, and not just sports. I mean, Dean Martin's from Steubenville, Clark Gable's from Cadiz, Ohio.
Yep.
I mean, the talent's everywhere.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, a lot of people don't realize Dino's first gig was at Lake Milton at Craig's Beach. There's even a plaque out there, a historical marker.
Oh, cool.
That his, and I think he was like 15 years old, and he played around this area, when he was up and coming. And then we had this illegal casino called the Jungle Inn that was run by the mob. And there's different stories there. I'm not sure what it is, if he was singing there, if he was a card dealer there, but the legend is that Dino had something to do with the Jungle Inn. And I remember all the old timers used to talk about the Jungle Inn because they had machine gun nests up in the top and guys with machine guns to keep the place from getting robbed. And that was like the big thing. Yeah, back in the day, you had a Jungle Inn. They used to have guys with machine guns down there. And that used to be, everybody would talk about that.
Somebody was telling me down in our old neighborhood that one of the big mobsters got shot in a house at the top of Caledonia Street. And
Sandy Naples.
I didn't know that.
That purple house that you see from 680, Sandy Naples got shot there.
I had to go do a drive-by because I couldn't believe that we had a famous house in our neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. And my dad and him were friends. As a matter of fact, when him and my mom, when my mom got married, something happened and they didn't get the marriage license in time. And Sandy Naples called up the judge to get it for him. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. See, my dad, he grew up in Briar Hill, but he grew up with all those guys. He knew all them guys.
I never imagined. He's such a sweetheart. He was like the sweetest guy.
Oh yeah, he knew all those guys. But yeah, it happened right on Caledonia, right around the corner from
where we lived.
Yeah, from where we lived. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, everybody was talking about.
Are you getting ready for your motorcycles coming up?
Yeah, motorcycle season's coming up, and we'll be doing.
Sweep the roads off, right?
Yeah, that's what I like. I know a lot of people have been out already, and I like to get that gravel off there a little more. Especially one year I wiped out and I crashed, and I'm a little gunshot.
God, it's like ball bearings under your wheels.
Yeah. Are you going to be recovered from St. Patrick's Day to come out and see us at the Dash on the 19th?
Oh, I'm going to try my very best.
I know it's a big week for you.
Yeah, you know what? I got so much stuff going on. Let's see. Friday, I'm at Friday I don't have anything going on. Saturday, I'm at the Lowville Rod and Gun Club for their gun raffle, which is always a good time. Booze and guns, I'm there. Then we have
the parade.
And then we have the parade on Sunday, and then the after party at Magic Tree.
Yeah.
So come on out for that, everybody. I know it's going to be a little chilly, and if you're going to puss out on the parade, at least come to the Magic Tree. We've got great entertainment all day. We've got bands. My old partner Casey Malone is going to be there, so it should be a good time. And then we're going to go, so I got that on Sunday, and then let's see, next week Tuesday I do the Y103 Bowling League. We do that out of Camelot Lanes, and then Thursday is going to be St. Patrick's Day.
Are you going to be downtown?
No, Magic Tree. I'll be out at Magic Tree. Okay. I'm kind of Magic Tree is my.
So then you'll have Friday to recover, and you can come and see Charlie at the Dash Inn on Saturday?
Yeah, I'll have to do that.
I think that it would be great. And you know what? Too. You might actually run into an old friend of yours over at the Dash Inn that I happened to see when Matt Varanti played there last month.
Okay.
Sonny.
Oh, geez. Okay.
He came to see Matt Varanti band, and everyone was running up to him, asking him for autographs and
I got to get Sonny
pictures
on the podcast,
and stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
but,
think he even knows what a podcast is. That's my
but he
problem.
knew what good blues was, and he came. So
yeah.
you can't let Sonny get one up on you and not
Yeah.
come and show up. 'Cause
Yeah,
he's going to start talking smack about you, Fred.
I know. I got to get out and see Sonny Hopcheck and Saxville Rhythm and Blues, and Sonny Needs Money and the Shoe Shine Boys, all the different incarnations of his bands that he
they're
had.
kind of like the house band. They're becoming like the house band at the Dash Inn. So they let me have one Saturday a month to bring in the blues, but then they like kind of monopolize the rest of the days with their guys. And
that's cool.
But it's nice because they come to the blues shows.
Yes.
So it's kind of like an all-star.
Like
the guest list is all-stars
Yeah.
pretty much. Like Charlie came to the last show as a spectator, and now he's going to be playing.
And now, Sonny, he used to own Underdog. Well, you see, Underdog Records is still around. It's in Hubbard now, but the original one back in, when I was in high school, was out on South Avenue.
Yeah.
And, it was head shop / record store, and it was crazy. And one of the guys I went to high school with, and he worked out there. And now many, many years later, I was in the hospital. And all of a sudden he come in, he was like one of the technicians or whatever, and I'm going, oh no, the guy that's selling bongs at Underdog Records is going to take care of me. I'm a little worried right now. I'm going, wait a minute, last time I saw you were selling zigzag papers to everybody and power hitters, the little squeezable power hitter and stuff. And now you're taking my blood or you're checking my vitals. I don't know.
Well, healthcare really is a good backup for rock stars. It really is. Like the true survivors, the ones that made it through the pandemic, were all the people that had healthcare as their primary profession. They never missed a beat. Never missed a beat. So it's good to get into healthcare if you want to be a rock star. Yeah.
Oh, I know another person from Belmont County is Brad Paisley. Is from that area.
Right.
I remember looking at
I can't remember where he's from exactly.
That the Hall of Fame there that they have with all those people, and they had him in there because he was always singing the national anthem at all the different sporting events down there. Let me look that up. You don't have to remember things.
That's good because I'm not very good at it.
Hey, our buddy Jeff Buzzard is checking in. Good to hear from Jeff. And oh man, I can't. Lori Mercer, how are you? I don't have my glasses on. Not that I need them. And I can't even use my excuse like, well, the only reason I put these glasses on is because the lighting's a little dim and I need to. Here we got these lights just beaming on,
Oh, boy, they're bright.
Let's see. Yeah, this is my friend Elizabeth just rolled in. How are you, Elizabeth? Good to hear from you. Hope everything's going well with you. My buddy Jay Bird, he was one of the first ones in. Now, Jay Bird knows I'm notoriously late, but he was on, ready to go right at 7:30. And I almost want to say, Jay Bird, don't you, you know me well enough that
that's dedication, Fred.
Yeah. Either that or he was stoned. I'm just thinking that he was stoned and he kind of lost track of time.
It's a viable excuse.
Jay Bird, we're talking about you. Okay, TJ checking in. TJ was down at the Devon Allman, Samantha Fish show. It was good to see him. And I know TJ will be getting ready for motorcycle weather. Same with Jay Bird. Jay Bird's already been out a few times. And I couldn't go out, and then they shamed me, These guys, they cut me no slack.
Are you waiting for April? Because I hear from little birdies that we wait until April before we get out on the road.
I'm not waiting for anything. I'm just waiting for motivate. I'm waiting for not having something to do. Yeah. Sometimes work cuts into my motorcycling. That's why when Charlie said he was retired, and I'm just like, when I was off work for a year and a half for the pandemic, it was probably the best year and a half of my life.
All you did was
and
fish.
I kind of got used to being off of work, and I was fishing almost every day, or riding my motorcycle, or day drinking, and sometimes I went days on end without taking my sweatpants off, and I would sit in front of the TV and day drink and watch Game Show Network all day.
Get caught up on Netflix.
Oh, not even Netflix. I that was kind of like career training because I thought I'd get on one of those TV shows on Game Show Network and win some money.
Do you know I was on The Price is Right before
when
the
were you
pandemic?
On The Price is Right? I do think I remember that.
Right before the pandemic, I went to LA for the Polestar conference out
Yeah.
at the Hollywood Hilton with my classmates from Point Park.
Yeah.
And one day I snuck away from the conference. I had tickets to The Price is Right, and I went down there. I was in the studio audience. They didn't call me, but the person next to me. So I was on TV like a lot.
Okay. Oh, all
So
right,
it was
okay.
like they taped the episodes like 2 months in advance. So my episode was taped in February, and they tell you what day it's going to be on. So when it was on, it was like the end of April, and it was still when everybody was at home doing nothing. So like everybody saw me on The Price is
Watching
Right.
The Price is Right.
Yeah, everyone was like watching it wherever they were in their quarantine state of mind.
Yeah, I don't miss
All
that.
right. Let's see. Brad Paisley was born in Glendale, West Virginia.
Glendale, okay, across the river.
across.
Yeah, not far from Wheeling at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So that had to be pretty fun though, being on there, huh?
It was.
You know,
It was
what was the
really
studio?
cool.
So what's it like there when you go down there?
When you go down
what is
there-
it different than when you watch it on TV?
You stand in line all day long, like all day.
Ah.
They have you going through this big queue, and it's like this outdoor line. And they have little stations where they ask you questions, and they're questions to find out how interesting you are, because they want the most interesting people to be the contestants, or something. And so like you buddy up with the people that are close to you because you're with them for hours on end. And when you finally get into the studio, it's like the smallest little place. Like you can't believe how small it is and how crammed it is. Like the way they've changed it for the pandemic, it definitely had to happen that way because everybody was in like sardines.
Yeah.
In the traditional way they used to
I
have
saw
it.
the big wheel.
I mean, the big wheel wasn't even that big. It just looks so big on TV.
Really?
But everything is so small
way.
and condensed. But what's really nice is that
So like the, behind the curtain and all that stuff.
oh, that stuff is so little. It's
Really?
everything's just really small when you're actually there in real life. The TV makes it big. And
Now
but
see, I would be disappointed because I thought the big wheel was like
huge.
Yeah,
no. And what's really nice though is that Drew Carey likes to rap a lot with the audience in between, like when they have the commercial breaks and stuff. And he's really fun. He's a really fun, genuine, good replacement for Bob Barker, and he took
Speaking of
over.
celebrities from this part of the world.
Yeah, Drew Carey. Where's he from, Fred?
Cleveland guy.
Right there.
Yeah, I
There you
see
go.
that orange.
He's Browns
thing
fan.
there.
Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks. You ever hear that song?
No, never.
Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks. You never heard that one? Oh, you got to look it up.
No, never heard that one.
Google that one. You might like it.
That was their theme. That was the theme on his show for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
Ian Hunter, right?
I'll tell you, it was one of the funniest episodes. Did you ever see the one where he decides to start a band, and they want to start a band to pick up chicks, and so they want to get somebody to be a guitar player, but they don't want somebody too good because they're afraid the guitar player will get all the chicks and they won't get any. So they start auditioning everybody, and the next thing you know, it's
Joe Walsh on that one?
Yeah. So it starts out, it's like Slash from Guns N' Roses, and it's Joey Ramone, and Johnny Lang is on there, and Michael Stanley was on there, and then Dusty Hill from ZZ Top.
Oh my God.
There's like about 15 people all audition. And and they're just like, nah, this guy's terrible. You're too good. But they're telling them, they're not saying that, but they're like, oh no, that doesn't fit. That's not what we're looking for, whatever. So next thing you know, Joe Walsh is there, and he's just kind of like their flunky friend,
right?
And so he comes in there, and he picks up the guitar, and he's just like, and they're going, I think that's the guy. He goes, yeah, he looks kind of slow too, and then they go, and then so they end up hiring him, and he's like, okay, Charlie, or whatever his name was, you got the gig, man. And he goes, yeah, okay, whatever. But they didn't want to sound too good because they didn't want the guy, but it was really funny. But he had everybody on there.
He lost a ton of weight. He's like half the man he used to be. Because
he's gained a lot of it back. I saw
when I saw him at
recently.
When I saw him live at the studio in LA, he looked so thin. Like he
Mhm.
didn't even look like Drew Carey anymore. You only
Mm-mm.
knew it was him because of his voice.
So did you say, Drew, man, I'm from Youngstown. Come on, Ohio, put me on.
Oh.
Let me bid on the
Oh,
car.
they already have it picked by the time you even get in
Uh-huh.
the room.
I'm
So
sure.
you know, and you're on your best behavior when you're there. Like
Yeah,
like
those
they own
TV
you.
shows are kind
Yeah.
of crazy like that. One time, me and
Yeah.
my son went to see The Daily Show,
Oh, Jon Stewart.
and it was a lot of fun. But that was another one. You had to go there like early in the day and wait in line, and then they only took so many people.
Yeah.
And then I think you got in line for the tickets. Then you had to come back at a different time and get in line
all
again and
day.
stuff. It wasn't just like, oh, okay, here's your ticket. Be here at 6 o'clock. And there was a lot
All day
of
ordeal.
rigmarole
Yeah.
that went along with it. You know.
Yeah, it was fun though. It was so much fun going out there and seeing LA and
Yeah.
seeing Hollywood from being from here in Youngstown.
Yeah, that's where I want to go.
You
I've never
know.
been out there.
It's a different world. It really is. And the Hall of or the Walk of Fame was really cool too.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
bad at, you know, people grow up in this area and they never leave. They never go anywhere. You know, they think this is it, and it's a big world out there, and
Oh, yeah.
hoping that, you know, more people can get out, as you know, in addition to us bringing better things into the city, you know.
Oh, okay. Our buddy Jeff has some harmonica questions.
Oh,
So,
let it rip.
Yeah, we need Joe. Where's Joe at? We got to have Joe, our producer, open up the phone lines here so Jeff could call in, and he has some harmonica questions for Charlie. So, hey, Joe, can we open the phone lines?
No,
No.
we're not set up for phone lines back here.
Oh, we're not set up
Oh.
for phone lines. We had to be in our front studio.
Could he put it in the comment and I
Yeah,
can answer?
you know what? Yeah, just Jeff, just shoot your comments in the questions, and Charlie will answer them for you. How's that? There you go. Just do
Or
that.
your questions in the comments if that works.
Yeah. Put your question in a comment. So,
Yeah, it's something I'm more than happy to talk about.
Hey,
Yeah, there you go.
I have a question. How did your connection come about with Honer? You're a Honer endorsed.
I am a Honer. Well, I'm a Honer endorser.
You are.
I would like to think they endorse me, but I think technically I endorse them. So yeah, I had inquired about it. I know some of the guys who work with Honer KHS, which is based out of Nashville, and I go to different events. There's a big harmonica convention, if you will, every August it's put on by a group called SPA, the Society for the Preservation and Advancement of the Harmonica. They've been doing this yearly convention, gosh, I don't know how many decades, 40, 50 years maybe. But Honer's always there. They're always typically the main sponsor. And so, I know these guys and I'd inquired about, becoming part of the Honer artist team. And then I guess it was 2018 or 2019. I can't recall. I got a message maybe a couple weeks after this convention inviting me to become part of the Honer endorsement team. So
that's cool.
I'm officially work with Honer. I've always played Honer, so it was a no-brainer.
So to give you free harmonicas?
Not free, but
Oh.
pretty deep discount. To be honest, most of the harmonicas that I gig with are customized, and I get them from a couple of friends of mine who are world-renowned customizers. So, I guess the obvious question is, what does that mean? So a stock harmonica out of the box, they take those and they take them apart and they reset the reeds, they shape everything, they sand it to make it more airtight, more responsive. And it's like playing a Kmart guitar versus playing a fully professionally set up, vintage Strat. I mean, it's just like there's a night and day difference.
I never would have imagined
Yeah.
that. I just thought you buy a harmonica and here you go.
Well, you can.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the stock harmonicas now, there's a lot of companies out there and there's a lot of good harmonicas out there.
Mhm.
Hohner has really upped their game the last couple decades of offering new, improved models, increasing the quality and playability of their old standard models that they've had forever. The Marine Band, the Special 20, some of the other ones. But they're very playable. And I know a lot of pro players, a lot of friends who they don't mess with customs. They get stock harmonicas and they play them, which anybody could do that. But when one of the top customizers in the world is your friend and offers to make you harmonicas after pestering him for many years and him not agreeing to make you harmonicas because he's busy working for pro players.
Yeah.
And then when he offers to make you some, you don't say no.
Yeah, I would say.
So the majority of the harmonicas that I use, especially gigging and recording, have been customized, but they're all Hohners. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Here, Jeff has a question there. Since
All
I
right.
don't have my glasses on, you got yours on.
The Who in that song joined together. They played those big giant harmonicas. I think they are Suzuki's. How is the sound different? I am not familiar with that video or what they were playing. I do know that, if it was a big, no, I don't know what you mean, Jeff, by big. If it was like really big, it was probably just a prop. If it was, it might have been, I don't know what, not having the context to put it in because I'm not familiar with the video, but I do know that Suzuki makes a great harmonica. They're based out of Japan, and they have a really great product. There's a lot of different models, more so than most people would think. Most people think a harmonica is a harmonica, but every company has a lot of variation in how it's built, the materials used, the tuning, specific tuning of the reeds. There are alternate tuned harmonicas, different types of minor tuning, and you could get customizers to tune it however you want. Raise this reed up a half a step, or lower that one a half a step, whatever makes it easier for you to play your type of music. Specifically, what they were doing in that video or photo, whatever it is you're referring to, Jeff, I couldn't say what they were doing. I do know Suzuki makes a great harp.
Okay, good. All right, so if anybody else has a question, just put them right in there on the. Oh wait, okay, he just responded. Okay, he says they're 10 times the size of a regular harmonica, and they are real.
Interesting. I'm not familiar with that. I'd have to look at it. My guess is anything that big would be a prop. The biggest ones that I know are, chromatic harmonicas are a little bigger because some of the bigger ones are 4 octaves. And then they have orchestral harmonicas, they have bass harmonicas and chord harmonicas. I think the biggest Hohner chord harmonica is like 30 inches long. And it has all these chords in it that, and that along the bass harmonica are all blow. Most harmonicas are blow and draw. They play both directions. But those big orchestral types are all blow. But 10 times the size of a regular harmonica, I'd have to see that.
You know what? Let me see if I can find a picture of it.
If it was in a video, it's also very possible they were just using whatever prop harmonica they had, and somebody else was, they were, doing the video kind of lip syncing to the already tracked song.
Let's see if we can find a picture of this. Once again, it'd probably help if I had glasses on. The lighting in here is just so bad. I don't know how they expect me to see. I'm having a hard time even finding that video,
How
Jeff.
can you not see in here? It's so bright.
You know what, Jeff? If you could download a picture of it, just put it on there. And
yeah, great idea.
No, I'm just using that for an excuse.
I feel like
Yeah, no, I'm using that for an excuse. So
I feel like
I could justify why I can't see. Yeah, so maybe Jeff will post a picture of that, and then you could take a look at it. So what about some of your like early musical influences? What were some like the first albums that you bought, records, 45s, that kind of stuff?
When I first got into music, it was classic rock, but they didn't call it classic rock. It was new at the time. They just called it music. So yeah, a lot of it was like going out and I mean, I didn't know. I would go to the department store or the record store and there were some records that I bought because the cover was cool. And more often than not, I liked the music that was on the vinyl. But a lot of it was an older brother, Michael, who lives in Canton, Ohio, by the way. He's probably 6 or 7 years my senior. And I used to liberate his records. So a lot of my influence was because we shared a room for quite a while. And a lot of my musical influence was stuff that he was playing, and again, all that was new back then. And I really liked all that stuff, but there were certain things that I gravitated towards, and I like heavier music at the time, Zeppelin and Sabbath and stuff like that. And that's why I got weird in the 80s, with music. The heavy stuff wasn't heavy and it was just weird. Yeah. In my opinion.
And that's when the keyboard driven, synthesizer driven stuff really started coming along.
Oh yeah.
Too.
It's like,
it just changed the entire sound.
I could almost see some record executives saying, well, so-and-so had a hit with this and they put a keyboard in there. So we need to get our boys to have a keyboard in their band, and it's just like,
oh yeah.
and the artists were under contract. They were at the mercy of the producers and the record execs. So it's like, you can't hardly blame them.
Yeah. Frank Zappa has a good interview. If you could find it
I've
online.
Seen that. I know which one
when
you're
he's talking about like the difference was back in that day, they just had these old guys that had a few bucks who were chomping on cigars.
Right.
They didn't know what the music was. All they know is the record sold.
Yeah.
And they were going to go head out there. And then they started getting these young hipsters and stuff. And they were becoming like the arbitrators of taste.
Right.
And they were like, the guy was working in the mailroom one day and the next day, hey, I like that. That sounds good.
Right.
And they go, yeah, listen to this guy. Where before they were just letting the bands go and, they make money and they'd chomp on their cigar and I don't know what it is, but you just go out there, keep doing it. Do it again, kid.
And it makes perfect sense, because you think back in the, popular music or rock and roll, as we like to call it, in the 60s and 70s, it was so innovative. There were bands doing things that wasn't just the old cigar chompers in the record in the boardroom were like, what the hell is that? I mean, it's like general public was like, I don't know what this is. I kind of like it, but I don't know what it is. But then as things started going, that whole formula started to take over, and it's gotten worse and worse every decade since then, I think.
Oh yeah. And what was I going to say about that? And it was just like that was the thing that I even think with music today, it's really going to be hard to replicate because I mean, how is there ever going to be another Pink Floyd? How is there going to be another Led Zeppelin? Who's going to be the next Doors? Who's going to be the next Jim Morrison? Because all that stuff was coming out, like you say, was brand new and it was never heard before. It was sounds that were never heard before. And especially like some of the older guys out there now that were learning to play back then. I mean, they would be sitting there with a record and,
dropping the needle
and bringing it back or just playing it at a slower speed.
One of them, I was there. We didn't have the amazing slow downer. We didn't have YouTube or any internet. I mean, we didn't have any of that stuff. If you wanted to learn something, unless you had somebody tab it out for you, you had to sit there and keep dropping the needle and learn it a little piece at a time. I mean, that was the way it was.
And the thing was, all these other guys, they were tripping on acid or whatever and stuff, and they're just making this stuff up as they're going along. There was no blueprint. There was no roadmap. And, and I think that's why it was such an exciting time for people our age.
Absolutely.
Is because all this stuff was brand new and you were just being bombarded with it. Mm-hmm. That's why I think our generation is so into rock music. And I talk about this all the time, where to us, it was almost like a religion.
Mhm.
It was a passion.
Yeah.
It was a way of life. I mean, even the cartoons, you had the Beatles cartoons and the Monkeys and the Partridge Family, and everything was revolved around rock and roll, you know? And the banana splits, everything, you know, you would get a free record on the back of a box of cereal.
I
for
remember
crying
those
out loud.
days. Yeah.
You know, and it was just like, you know, the Beatles were just so far out there, and you know, you would get free things from Yellow Submarine and, you know, in cereal boxes and stuff. And it was just like all this stuff was so new and so fresh and never heard before. And we were just bombarded with that. And then you add on the top of that, you had the Motown and the R&B,
Mhm.
you know, and then now all these other influences are kicking in, and, you know, the British guys were bringing back the blues, and we're, you know, you're just sitting there like every day, you know, you listen to that, you know, your little transistor radio, and it was just like, what are they going to play next? And we were our musical taste was so varied that we could listen to Elvis singing Kentucky Rain, and then Petula Clark singing Downtown.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, here comes Cream with White Room. And the next one, Zeppelin, Whole Lot of Love. And then it's, you know, the Jackson 5. And then all of a sudden it's Heard It Through the Grapevine and Aretha Franklin and Marvin Gaye.
It's a special time for
And then
music.
it was just like, and it just kept coming and coming and coming. And you're just sitting there going, what's next? What's next? And it's stuff that was never, ever heard before. And who would think that some of this music, the Beatles, 60 years,
Mhm.
think about that, 60 years. If you go back, somebody did the math on that. It was like something like, if you go back, if you went back now from music from the 70s, it would be like you going back from the 70s to the 20s.
Mhm.
You know, think about
Yeah.
that. What did this music, where did it come from that it was that, and it still has staying power?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, and the more generations. The Beatles are probably just as popular as they've ever been, you know, and they had that Get Back documentary come out, and it
Mhm.
just started a whole resurgence into the Beatles, and people getting back into them even more. And, you know, I mean, to me, they were like, there was nothing like them, and there never will be, you know. The stuff that they put out, it was just, and they were movie stars. They were everything, you know.
Yeah, it was
They-
a special time for sure.
They were movie stars. They were singers. They were writers. They were musicians. You know, they were trendsetters, and they were changing constantly and stuff. And nobody has ever really been able to do that again, you know. And now and now the way things are going, you have you have it where, you know, once a band gets into a sound, if they get out of that sound, then their fans aren't interested.
Right.
Where the Beatles would have Helter Skelter and Blackbird and Why Don't We Do It in the Road?
No, they were all
and,
over
you
the
know,
place.
You know, Julia, and just it was anything. It would be a chamber orchestra, and the next thing you know, it's, you know.
I think there's still some really great music being made these days, but you're not going to hear it on mainstream
Yeah.
sources. I mean,
Yes.
that's
Mhm.
because mainstream music is about what's saleable and the industry part of it, and you know, but there's some. I mean, it's kind of the double-edged sword. The cool thing is it's anybody could create something and put it out there. With the internet, the world has shrunk because of the internet. You could put stuff on Spotify or the streaming, and I know you're not going to make any money doing it, but you could put it out there. And if you start, you know, sniffing around through that stuff, you could find some really cool stuff.
Oh yeah.
But you're not going to hear it on when you flip on the radio. That's why I think a lot of radio stations are still playing the classic rock, because it's because of the staying power.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people still like Led Zeppelin. People still like Pink Floyd. People still like the Doors. People still like,
Sure.
you know, all that
A
stuff.
lot of people who were born well after those bands went away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
just people of our generation who remember when those songs came out.
Right.
It's people who were born. I mean, my daughter, she's 26. She was heavy into classic rock when she was younger, and I was like, and I didn't really listen to a bunch of that stuff then because I was already moving into this older traditional stuff. And she found it on her own and was like a huge Beatles fan and
Yeah,
listening to all
and
this
Queen.
classic rock stuff. And she, I'm like, hey, cool. I'm just like, you weren't even alive when those bands broke up.
See, and that's sometimes though when some people, when they start getting our age, and they might like knock radio for like, oh, you got to play more variety, and I get it, I mean, I go back to the old school where you played whatever you want,
Right? Yeah.
But there's a lot of reasons to it, and I'm not going to go into that. But also one of the reasons is because some of that stuff just isn't familiar to the younger people that are listening now.
Right.
Like I think about this all the time. When I would talk about on the air, like about the Tomorrow Club in downtown Youngstown. I mean, it's cool to reminisce, but now it's almost like you almost have to be near 60 years old to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
You could be 45 years old, and that means absolutely nothing to you, right? I mean, if I now you know a little bit about, like, say, a band like Left End, but you weren't like.
I came in. I was just old enough to go to JB's in the Park-In.
Okay,
and
right.
Irish Bob's back in the heyday.
So that's where
Magic Twanger.
Yeah.
Those were the places that I was just on the cusp of getting into. A little
Right.
bit of Aquanet and a lot of makeup got you in the door.
Right.
But
Right.
I did get the opportunity to go to some of those iconic places from the 90s.
Yeah. Now, see, that's where, and you're in that age group,
Yeah.
And sometimes you sit there and think, or even, we had the radio station, The Wizard, Thomas John and the 4 o'clock high and all this iconic stuff that was really big and meant a lot to Youngstown. But now if I talk to somebody like Tracy, she'll look at me like, what are you talking about, Grandpa?
I don't remember
Now
that.
her dad would know,
Well, yeah,
her neighbor Edwin would get it. All these people would get it. But I mean, so that's how it goes. So, I mean, if some of this stuff isn't that popular with everybody,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's tons of songs that I know from the 70s that, and you're, people go, dude, if you play that, man, people be freaking out. But, for where we're at, you're thinking people that aren't familiar with it will be pushing the button.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unfortunately, that's the way it is. I mean, I didn't create that. I didn't make that up. And there are certain things that they, test and research, but you still got to have some gut and some soul and some feel to go along with it. But I mean, there are certain reasons why you don't do that stuff. And especially now where you have so many different places to go. Before, it was either this radio station or that radio station.
Right.
Okay, this one or that one, this one or that one.
You didn't have that many
and if
choices.
if this is a song I don't like, I'm going to this one. And then it even got to the point where, okay, if a song was so big, there's a good chance it was on this one and this one.
Yeah.
So it's just the nature of it, and things aren't like they used to be. Nothing's like they used to be.
Nothing
But,
is.
there might be a song from Queen or whoever, who are some of your favorites, just off the top of your head?
I liked Struts. I
Okay.
love the Foo Fighters.
Okay.
I like Larkin Poe.
Yeah. I'm talking classic, like.
Classics.
Yeah.
Oh,
from
definitely
your
like.
JB's days.
The local.
Or no, we can go local, but I mean, first, so I can get my point, and then we'll go. Into
Okay, so like I grew up my first favorite band was Duran Duran.
Oh, okay.
And then my next favorite band was Bon Jovi, who's
Okay.
still my favorite.
Right.
One of my
Everybody
favorite
loves
bands.
Bon Jovi,
Yeah.
especially the ladies.
Well, I kind of got a little after Richie left. I kind of got a little not as much, but
yeah, of course.
I like GNR. God.
Go back a little further though. There's got to be like some
classics like
Yeah.
Back to Your Day.
Yeah,
Okay.
back to my day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
go back to my day.
You wear that Browns hat though. That totally set you up with a target on you. Sorry, but not sorry. But anyhow, I would say I like Journey. I like Pink Floyd. I discovered them a little later after I can understand it better. I do like them though a lot.
Yeah.
And I actually got into old country,
Mm-hmm.
but not old to you guys,
Yeah.
old to me,
Right.
which I really, really like Kenny Rogers.
Oh, you love Kenny Rogers.
Kenny
the
Rogers
Gambler,
was
and
so
who doesn't
good.
love the Gambler? And
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And through the years, and
through the
like
years,
like he
another
was
good
just
one.
a crooner, lady. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neil Diamond. I like Neil Diamond a lot too. Something I discovered later on when I got a little older.
Yeah.
But I think as you get older, and if you really like quality music, like you were saying, the kids are discovering these bands that we liked. You know, my generation and your generation, because there is a difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the kids nowadays are going back to our music.
Right. Right.
And it's because of the quality, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so spanning that, they're looking for it. They're looking
Yeah.
for
And like I was going to say, there are probably some Pink Floyd songs out there that I would play that I would think, oh man, I'm blowing somebody out. I'm flipping somebody out. Somebody's digging that. And there's probably somebody out there that would be going, I can't believe you're playing that, dude. This is my man.
That's my jam.
How cool. And then there's somebody like Tracy or something might be out there going, what the fuck is this?
That's
I mean,
the nice
truly,
thing.
it's like that. It's the way it goes.
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes.
but it is like getting older.
Yeah.
You appreciate and respect the older music.
Right.
I think you're more open
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean,
was a blues fan older too.
And I mean, that's how I look at rap right now. I mean, people that are out there liking rap right now that are in high school or something, tell me what you're going to like 20 years from now. I don't think you're going to be sitting there going, oh yeah, that's my noise. I don't think you're going to see that. You'll be into something completely different. I think I've noticed that more and more that, like say even from, people from the 90s that now they're getting in their 30s, later 30s and stuff that might've been really heavy into that. Now are kind of like,
well, look at the Super Bowl. Who they have on the Super Bowl?
But you know what? It's still big. It's still big. A lot of people bitched about that, but you know what? Who was at that point? Who was bigger than Eminem? I mean, really, who was bigger than Snoop Dogg and Eminem and Dr. Dre? For that period of time, they dominated that. It might not be my music, but I understand. You know what I mean? Do I sit there? Oh, screw that, man! I don't want that rap bullshit or whatever. But I look at that, but I also get it. I also get it and say, you know what? There's a lot of people out there that like that.
That's right.
Well,
Slim Shady, come on.
You get it because they sampled your generation's music to make their music.
Yeah, two trailer park girls go around the outside. I mean, that's fun music.
Well, look at Tone Loc. He took Funky Cole Medina out of Hot Blooded from Foreigner.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Wild Thing was Jamie's Crying from Van Halen.
Yeah.
So he was taking your generation's music and making those into my generation's rap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And several more.
But like I say, I get it. I get the whole thing. You know what I mean? And you can't just be stuck in your own way.
No.
That's one thing. I don't feel that I'm like a music snob or whatever. I look at it this way. If you like it and it makes you happy, who am I to say, who am I to say what you should like or what you shouldn't like or whatever? If it's your thing, it's your thing.
Right.
I have no say in what you do, and nor should I. I don't really feel like calling you out because you like who signed me to do that? That's if you don't like that, then if I have a pet peeve, music snobs are one of them. And especially when somebody will get on Facebook and they'll start with like, what is the one song, the one group that makes you turn off the radio? Or what is the one most overrated band? All that does is get a bunch of haters all riled up.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to see that? I don't want to see that.
Yeah, but everybody has the same answer.
It's like, go listen to what you listen to and nobody cares.
You know who it is, right, Fred?
Who's that?
Nickelback.
Oh,
yeah.
You know what? And that's but that's another band though that people put down Nickelback, but to me, I think they got some good songs. Maybe I'm a dick. I don't know, but maybe I'm the only one. but I thought,
Check your phone. You're probably blowing up right now.
I mean, I think Rockstar is a good song. And I kind of like that little, that porn rock, something in your mouth and burn it to the ground. And, I mean, they got these songs about, there's something in your mouth. And then, okay, I get it. Yay. And, burn it to the ground. We're going to drink some Crown. Hey, I could see, to me, it was like no big deal. It was like, okay, I get it. I saw him in concert, but as a matter of fact, I ran into Boom Boom Mancini at that concert at Blossom Music
You
Center.
just threw him under the bus.
And Boom Boom loved him.
At the Nickelback show.
Yeah.
That's funny.
He's going to come over here and put his dukes up on you now for busting him at the Nickelback show.
He was there. He had a good time. He was having a good time. He thought it was a good. Yeah. So I mean, I'm pretty open on a lot of that stuff. So to me, if you're standing there and you're having a couple of beers and it's, what am I,
Yeah, one thing's for sure, music is definitely not static. It's been changing and evolving since the very first moment that somebody did something musical. And the other thing, as somebody who creates and writes songs, I know this firsthand. Anytime you create art, it almost certainly is influenced by something you've seen or been exposed to previously. Maybe not intentionally, but sometimes, like if you hear a song or say you're a painter and you see a technique from somebody else, it's like, I really like that. Subconsciously, when you go to paint, that might bleed through. So I think art is always influenced by something else, and it's meant to. I mean, like it would be terrible if we had one kind of music and at one point somebody says, nope, this is it from here on out. We're not going to do anything new.
Yes.
Well, there's nothing exciting about that. Yeah. And probably every generation that had to listen to their kids' music were shaking their heads like, what is wrong with these kids? I know I drove my dad. I used to judge my music on how quick it would take my dad to come in and turn it down. and if ever, and it didn't happen often, but if he ever walked into my room and said, yeah, I kind of like that. Who is it? Like, I'm throwing that one away because there was something wrong. And I guarantee you that when he was listening, going to big band dances with my mother when they were dating, I guarantee you their parents were just shaking their head.
Oh,
going,
my dad, he never, ever embraced rock in any way, shape, or form. He would not listen to it. He listened to some country, but I mean, he was mainly big bands, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Duke Ellington, Earl Gardner, Tony Bennett. That was his music. And he never, I would try to, he was a piano player. He'd like piano players. Hey, listen to Elton John. Listen to this guy. Or I'd find something else and go, listen to this.
After 15 seconds. Nope.
Yeah. Cry Me a River. I think that was originally done by Frankie Lane. And, I found the Joe Cocker version at the time with Mad Dogs and Englishmen. I was like, Dad, listen to this. Here's that song. And listen to this guy playing. You ruined it. Get that out there. Yeah. What are you doing ruining these songs, And with my dad, I can remember, and I was talking about this the other day on the radio because this week was the anniversary of the debut of Beavis and Butthead. Oh. And I always liked when they would watch the videos and make comments about the videos they were watching. Or, yeah, this sucks. Yeah, look at that guy. Or, oh, she's in a cage, a chick in a cage. That's hot. Yeah, fire, and all that stuff. Breaking the law. And whenever they would watch those, especially when they would diss those videos. And that was my dad, like back in the day when, I don't care who it was, any rock band that would be on any TV show at the time. It could be the Doors on Ed Sullivan. You never got a chance to enjoy it with them because, you'd be all excited. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, the Dave Clark 5 is going to be on the Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour, And then my old man would just get over there and he would just rip them to shreds. And he would talk about the singing and the lyrics and how they were dressed and how they looked. And he would just go on nonstop. But it was funny. So he was doing that way before Beavis and Butthead.
That's hilarious.
He just didn't call anybody a fart knocker. I don't think that was a word out there back then, But it was some funny stuff. But yeah, it is. It just, I don't, like I say, I got, and I think that's why my musical taste is so open-minded, is that,
Your dad was cancel culture for music.
But he was so into that music, and so I developed an appreciation for that I still have to this day, and so I liked all that music, and I liked all the country, and I liked what I heard, and then classic rock, and a little bit of everything, I could take, Biggie Smalls' Hypnotized or something like that, and there's songs out there, I got a wide variety. Now, my wheelhouse is classic rock and then the blues and new rock, I got, I like Tool and bands like that and Foo Fighters and Nine Inch Nails and all that kind of stuff. But, I could tolerate Eminem. I could tolerate Snoop Dogg, Gin and Juice or something, and, there's fun songs out there for every occasion, So it's not like I just sit there and go, but I think a lot of people are like that, but, and some people aren't though. Some people are like, I do not like this guy, and anybody that likes them is no friend of mine.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like art. It's like TV shows. It's like food. It's like, it would be a boring place if everybody just had the same thing, and, everybody has their own taste, their own personality. So I say, go find what you like.
I like that you're.
But just make sure that you like the blues.
Yes.
Hey, if you don't like the blues, you're a dick. Can I tell you this? I just want to tell you that if you don't like the blues, if you don't come out and see Charlie on the 19th at the Dash Inn, there's something wrong with you. You have poor musical taste. You don't know what you're missing. And you don't know anything about music.
Well, thank you for that.
Thanks.
You're
Thanks,
probably
Fred.
listening to some kind of garbage is what you're doing.
They're playing the records backwards.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
No, but that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's going to be a hopping night. It's going to be hopping over there. I just have this feeling like this is going to be the one to catch the fire.
It's going to be fun. I got, as I mentioned, my buddy Jimmy Adler on guitar with me from Pittsburgh, and he has really dug in and studied all that old school Chicago stuff, and man, he's phenomenal. I have Steve Binsberger on keyboard doing a left-hand bass. Another phenomenal player from the city, and actually a Youngstown guy playing drums, Mr. Jim Richley, old JR.
Oh yeah. Oh, JR is going to be
JR,
okay.
JR's been,
No, I got to get JR on the show, because JR, we've been talking about getting him on, and, and even when you go back to his days with like Rainbow Tribe and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got so many great stories.
Oh yeah,
about,
he's played
about
with
them.
he's played with some great ensembles. I've been working with him for the past several months, and we're both really enjoying it and enjoying the music and him back there in the driver's seat. It's he's an extremely talented drummer.
He's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's another one. He does those big bands and stuff like that. I know for a while at Magic Tree they were doing, like, I think once a month, big bands, and boy, I'll tell you what, he can swing, man.
Oh yeah.
It's really cool. So, tell me a little bit about some of the material that, we could expect on.
Well, certainly going to be doing as many originals as I can. I gave Joe a copy of my new record. Hopefully he'll let you listen to it once in a while.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? We would like to play music on here, but we don't have the right licensing, and YouTube and these people, they knock us right off the air. Even if you're sitting there
it's original
playing your music,
weird.
They knock it off.
Well, you'll get a chance to listen to it. So that record is my newest record. It's 17 tracks, 16 originals. It's blues, it's country, it's swing, it's old time, it's some acoustic stuff. And I do it. I hired all these people that I play with on a semi-regular basis to go in the studio with me. And that was kind of the whole idea behind it, was to show the versatility with my writing and playing and singing, plus shine a spotlight on all these other great players.
Yeah.
So I'm certainly going to do the blues stuff off of that record, and a lot of other originals that haven't been recorded yet. But another big chunk of what I do is stuff, it's not anything you're going to hear on the classic rock station. It's a lot of the old Chicago stuff, the Muddy Waters and the Jimmy Rogers and the Sonny Boy Williamson and Howlin' Wolf and a lot of that.
Good stuff.
And even more obscure stuff than that. And it's all great. And these guys know how to play it forwards and backwards. So that's what you can expect. It's not a, in your face guitar hero kind of, rock blues thing at all. It's more laid back. It's harmonica driven. If you like that heavy, greasy, amplified harmonica sound, that's what I'm going to be bringing.
Awesome.
So,
and who are some of your blues harp fans or people that you like?
There's the obvious ones, the Sonny Boy Williamson 1 and 2. There were 2 of them. I don't know if you knew that or not. Yeah. John Lee Williamson from Chicago, and then Rice Miller was from the South, and he kind of co-opted his name. And then after John Lee got killed on the way home from a gig in a mugging, then Rice Miller's like, well, I'm the only one there ever was. So, and then, obviously you can't talk about blues harmonica without mentioning Little Walter Jacobs and Big Walter Horton. George Smith out of California, and these are all the old school guys. There's a lot of newer contemporary players that are just phenomenal.
Do you play Whammer Jammer?
Yeah. People always ask me for that, and I could play it, but I never do it in my set.
Yeah.
I had a lady.
That's the one harp song there. Whammer Jammer, man, check out, man.
But
Whammer
that's
Jammer.
what people know, as they hear that on the classic rock station. But I had a lady come up during the gig last summer. It was an outdoor gig, and she's been to several of my shows. She came up during the break and says, hey, could you take requests? I'm like, yeah, what do you want to hear? She goes, could you play Pride and Joy? I'm like, no. She goes, but I've heard you play that with this other band. I'm like, yeah, that was the other band's gig, and he called that out. It's like, well, why wouldn't you play it? It's a great song. I said, I agree. It's a great song. I wish I wrote it. But you've been to many of my shows. Have you ever heard me play something that you heard on the radio? And she went, now that you mention it, no. I'm like, that's right. That's not an accident. That's on purpose. So, because everybody does that. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's a great tune. All that stuff that people cover incessantly.
Room to Move? I'm not going to hear Room to Move.
Probably not. I mean, that's a great one. But again, you don't hear that. You don't hear that on the radio.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a public radio station down on the weird end of the dial.
Yeah.
But you're not going to hear that on the mainstream radio.
No.
And that's all great stuff. All that classic rock stuff is, Stevie Ray and Clapton and all that stuff that was like that. Really, in the 90s, there was a resurgence, largely in part because of those guys.
Yeah.
And they brought it back to mainstream, and then it caused more people to start digging, like I did, digging back and like, oh, okay, I kind of like that. Where are they getting that from?
Right.
And that every once in a while that happens. A few years ago, the Stones released a blues record. If it didn't have the name Rolling Stones on it, and you'd probably listen to it, and it would be just an average local blues band. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't.
Yeah, Aerosmith did that one out there
Aerosmith did another one. Years
Yeah.
ago. I mean, it's like it's not it's not what I would go out of my way to listen to, but if it turns other people onto it who wouldn't necessarily have any idea who Little Walter was, and they hear Mick Jagger doing his best effort to play a Little Walter song, and it may incite them to go and dig back and listen to the original. And that's what my hope is.
Yeah.
So anytime mainstream somebody does something in the blues vein, And if it turns even a couple people onto the real stuff or the original stuff, that's not a bad thing in my book.
No,
You know,
absolutely.
you know,
I agree.
you know, and it's like, I'm with you. And it's like, you know, whoever wants to listen or whatever, listen to it. You know, I'm probably not gonna,
Yeah.
but don't hold that against me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hold it against you if you do like
Right.
that. I mean,
That's
it's like,
how it should be. If you ask me, that's how it should be.
well, it's like I always say, Freddie, variety is a lot of different things.
I agree. Well, Charlie, thanks for stopping by.
Oh,
Charlie
man,
Barat,
this is a
and
ball.
he's going to be playing at the Dash In. Tracy, why don't you give us the whole scoop and the rundown on what you guys are trying to accomplish? And, you know,
We are having a Dash In Blues Day on a monthly basis. We're bringing in blues bands from the region and local. We have Charlie coming up with his blues band on March the 19th. And then in April, we're having Bobby Thompson and the Groove, another up and coming spectacular blues band from Beaver County. And they're going to be our April act over at the Dash. And then in May, I think it's the 7th, if I'm not mistaken, we're having Haas and the Juggernauts. And they are probably our local favorites here in the blues genre in the Youngstown area.
I'll tell you, Haas is such a great singer. That guy could belt out a song, man.
Nice.
I had those like when Charlie was talking about the hair standing up on him. I had seen Haas for the first time at that blues festival they had at the B&O station back in the fall of 2019, and I was with Rama and Kim, and Rama, formerly of Graphic Pink, now with Rama and Leanna Rama.
Yeah.
But I was like, who is this guy and where's he from? And I couldn't wait to book him at my show in Pittsburgh. And the pandemic came. So I got a second chance with Haas now.
Well, that is awesome.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Dash In, first Saturday of every month?
It varies.
Oh, it varies. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you have a Facebook page?
Yes. It's the Dash In Blues Day.
Okay.
And Instagram, we have that also.
Okay.
It may also be under Tuesday Blues Day, which is the former program we had down in Pittsburgh that
Okay.
it's kind of stuck. It's stuck, you know,
Yeah.
and someday we're going to go back to Tuesdays when things start picking up again.
Yeah. Sounds
But for
good.
now, we're going to have a good time on the 19th with Charlie and Jimmy Adler and Steve, and we're just going to rock it.
All right. Sounds good.
And don't
Well,
forget
listen,
JR.
guys. And don't forget JR, man.
Yeah, JR,
I got to,
Local
you know what? I
hero.
got to come out and see JR just so I could book him for a date to be on the show because we've been talking about it for a long time and I got to get him on here.
Well, that'll be your chance to stalk them, Fred.
You got it. That's what I'm going to do. All right, Charlie, thanks for stopping by. And Tracy from the Hood, we'll see you very soon. And hopefully I can make it out on the 19th of the
I hope
Dash.
so.
Hope so.
All right, Joe, thanks for everything. Our
Thanks,
producer, Joe, had an easy night here tonight. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'll catch you tomorrow afternoon at 3 on Y103. Come on out to the Dash In on March 19th and check out Charlie. All right, peace out.